So what's going on, guys? My name's Mr. Dalek JD, and in this video we're going to be talking about a brand new Mob of the Dead / Nacht Der Untoten loading screen inside of Black Ops 3 Zombies with the new Zombies comic issue. Now, if you have been watching, you probably saw my video of the live reading, and what happened was iTunes had a very weird glitch where with the release of the comic on iTunes, for some reason it didn't include the new loading screen. But for those that have purchased it via the Dark Horse Comics website, physical copies or electronic copies from that website contain a version of the comic which contains the loading screen that you see right here before your very eyes. Now, this is really freaking exciting, because if you guys are excited at all by the prospect of a Nacht Der Untoten / Mob of the Dead crossover in Black Ops 3 Zombies, either be it in just the story, or if it actually comes to fruition as some sort of content we could see during the year, then be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Let me know all your thoughts about this in the comment section. We're going to be diving deep because there is so much to break down and analyze and sort of put our little thoughts and processes on it, because there's so many things that this stuff could lead to. The first port of call is we're going to look at this brand new loading screen in detail before we look at the counterpart which we have in Black Ops 1 of Nacht Der Untoten. So this is a new reimagine of the Black Ops 1 Nacht Der Untoten loading screen. There is a lot different, and at first could make you think that Jason's trying to change the storyline of Nacht Der Untoten, but pretty much everything we see in this is purely related to Mob of the Dead. And I guess if they were to reimagine the loading screen of Mob of the Dead in the ways of fitting in with the storyline and with our Origins characters, then it makes sense to do it in this sort of fashion rather than have it the same where we have the plans of the plane and stuff like that, because in the storyline the characters don't necessarily need to go into Mob of the Dead purely for the reason of experiencing the map and the sort of cycle as the Mob of the Dead characters do. So on the far left we have 1914, a date which doesn't really relate to anything so far within Zombies. Origins started in 1918, and the storyline of Mob of the Dead does not start until 1933. There's some storyline to Mob of the Dead which we don't know yet, or the date is not related at all to the Brutus image we are seeing. Now, in terms of the storyline, 1914 is the start of World War I. Now, our characters don't meet up in northern France in Origins till 1918. Now, something important to know is that Origins is 1918, and Richtofen already has blood vials from one of the prisoners in Mob of the Dead. How the heck has he managed to do that? Somehow in the storyline, another version of Richtofen has travelled back in the past to give his past self those blood vials, and maybe 1914 is the year in which he done that. Who knows? But I also feel 1914 is a nice year marker to really start where this Origins timeline really first began, because World War I was a significant turning point, as that's when the characters were put together and that's when everything started. 1914 was when World War I first started. Now, if we continue over, we see right next to the Brutus shot is some sort of professor or someone trying to control a load of inanimate zombies. I'm guessing that's what it is. In the original Nacht loading screen, again, it is so extremely vague, so you won't look on that too much, but here we have 1933. Now, this is where Mob of the Dead takes place, my friends, and it looks like this load of people are almost like marching away from the canteen area back towards their prison cells, and we have shuffle up above, and I'm assuming what's happened is all of these inmates that we can see right now eventually will turn into the zombies that we do see in Mob of the Dead. Now, underneath we have 4 chambers. Now, these look so similar to the chambers in which the test subjects, the original World at War test subjects, were housed in, as we see an image of this in Der Eisendrache. But this is really confusing because we don't know exactly when the test chamber stuff started to take place. I'm pretty sure it wasn't as early as 1933, so this opens up a few more options. This could be the original 4 characters held in their chambers, and this is before they were sent away to their designated areas. For example, Dempsey's test subject chamber, of course, was sent to Der Eisendrache, which was then sent into a rocket towards the moon, but we do see at some point in time all of the test subjects were together, and obviously they were sent around so that it was harder for Richtofen or whoever was looking for these test subjects to find them. Now, in the comic book as well, we do see that the cliffhanger for this comic is that the 4 test subjects, the transit crew, have given their blood, and somehow that has changed the world completely. How that's managed to happen, what's happened from that, we have no idea. But this could also be a relation to those 4 test subjects in that situation, because we do have these 4 cryo chambers as well, but in the comic it does look a little bit different to what these do, and these pretty much resemble the ones we see from Black Ops 3. Now, another idea is that these 4 chambers could be holding the Mob of the Dead crew. Of course they die, of course, and it looks like if we look at the 1941 year date, that's when the Origins crew visit again to collect blood vials for each character. But how on earth can they collect the blood if the characters have been dead for nearly 8 years? It doesn't quite add up, and the only way that it could make sense is if they were frozen in these cryo chambers, but there really isn't a correct explanation or correct answer at this point, as we simply don't know. If we move over to the right hand of this image, we can see the prison cells, and I guess that is also Brutus from a further away shot. So on the left we have a real up close where he's looking inside one of the prison cells, and then we have this again where you can just see an empty hallway of prison cells. And in 1941 we see a group of characters coming through a teleporter. Now this is clearly our Origins characters. Now they do look a little bit different. The main character in the forefront, you can tell that is Richtofen, but he looks like he's wearing some sort of beret. Perhaps it could be Al's hat, which we find inside of the Mob of the Dead section of Revelations, but you can see at one point in the far right character, that is 1,000,000% Nikolai. It's clear as day to see that as Nikolai, because you can see the hat he's wearing, it's very iconic. And also another one of those characters is 1,000,000% Takeo, because if you look at the trousers he's wearing, it resembles it. And you can see in the main forefront, the main character is Richtofen. You can see his right belt strap clear as day. These characters are teleporting into Mob of the Dead from the end of the Zetsubo no Shima Easter egg. We've known for absolutely ages that when they return from the short amount of time that they did leave Zetsubo no Shima, they all return with Mob of the Dead blood vials, and this is a little bit of an explanation as to how and when exactly they got those blood vials. We know they went there 8 years after the characters dying in Mob of the Dead, but how exactly did they get the blood vials? That's something that we don't know. Was it as simple as just finding their little cryo chambers? Would Mob of the Dead Alcatraz even hold these cryo chambers? That's something which is a bit weird to explain. We have absolutely no idea, but I think what is a good thing to go and look at now is comparing this new loading screen to the old loading screen. Now the big thing as well to note is that this new loading screen is going from one time period and it's going forwards in time, whilst with the original of Nacht Der Untoten it started in 1964 and it goes backwards in time to 1943. Now so much of this loading screen for Nacht Der Untoten is so mysterious that I can't even really explain it, but to this day all we have is a weird character stood in this light, which we do see Brutus now standing there. We have the same person seemingly controlling the zombies, and they're almost like slaves, I guess. They're sort of like just under his control, and for whatever reason it's involving them being in a sort of Russian compound, which again is now switched to the Mob of the Dead prison cells. And 1943 we see this weird shadow come out of the teleporter, and we can see numbers behind it which resemble something out of 5, and possibly at the time people were thinking this could be the guy that steals your weapons inside of 5, and going through that teleporter is kind of what changed him and made him become that way, but we honestly have no idea. Now another big question to ask is why the heck was Nacht Der Untoten's loading screen altered to fit the narrative of Mob of the Dead rather than it be a thing where perhaps the two maps are being fused together? Well, if we look at the Origins timeline, it starts with Origins in 1918, and if we have that 1914 date, perhaps that's when a future version of Richtofen gives the old Origins Richtofen the blood vials for the first time, and that's why when they all meet up in Origins, the weird thing is he has absolutely no idea or any recollection of anyone giving him these blood vials or him getting them himself. There is no explanation about it whatsoever. Perhaps Element 115 may have a part to play here in forgetting that part, but obviously it's something that hasn't been forgotten, because during the time period of perhaps Origins and then the Giant, Richtofen goes off on this quest where he knows he needs something, and perhaps then is where he went back in time and gave himself those blood vials to his original Origins character. It is such a confusing timeline. This doesn't help Jason. Also over, I feel like this is a representation that Nacht Der Untoten was the very beginning of the original timeline, and now this is solidifying that Mob of the Dead is as significant as Nacht in starting the story and starting things off. If you guys remember the interview I had with Jason, he made sure, he said so many times how important Mob of the Dead is for the storyline in general. It is like the biggest part of the story, and I guess this is shedding some more light onto it. Here's the $1 million question, which is on everybody's minds. Does this mean we're going to be getting remakes? Is a DLC going to happen at some point soon for Black Ops 3 Zombies? Is that what Jason hinted at months ago, and now this is just pretty much solidifying that? I would like to think so. I would love to see Mob of the Dead and all of the other remake loading screens we've seen so far, like Nuketown, Moon, Ascension, all that sort of thing in Black Ops 3 Zombies to play would be incredible. It would be so amazing. But there's also another point to look at it, thinking that this could all just be visual representations about how the storyline is so messed up thanks to this multiverse theory that Jason introduced, that this is sort of helping to merge universes and alternate timelines and sort of try and help make this jumbled mess of a story actually make somewhat concrete sense and set it up for the next Treyarch game. I think I would officially lose my mind if this actually came to be playable remastered maps inside of Black Ops 3. But if we think about how this could even go down if this happens, we've had one remaster sort of map pack, I guess, which was Resurrection for Black Ops 1. We've never had a 5th DLC pack. It just goes against everything that normally works with the sort of Activision cycle of games. But as with most things, it's not confirmed in the slightest. We've not heard any official wording or announcement from Treyarch, but you know, if we do hear from them, you'll be sure to find it here on the channel almost immediately. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to keep yourself up to date with the latest information when it comes to these new loading screens in these comics. Anything that we do here from any of the developers, I'll be sure to update you guys. But I want to hear from you in the comment section. What do you think of all this? If you've got any other storyline theories that this loading screen might portray, definitely leave it in the comment section. And as always, take care guys. I'll catch you in another video very soon.